What up, mathletes? Whoop, whoop. All right, let's do this today. Warm up. Determine whether each pair of lines is parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Let me please remind you, you want to write this down for your notes. If they're parallel, so for lines that are parallel, that's what this means. So lines are parallel, two lines. Then what do you know? You know that the slope of one is equal to the slope of the first line is equal to the slope of the second line, okay? If you have lines that are perpendicular, then what do you know? That means perpendicular, by the way. That means two lines meeting at a 90-degree angle. Don't make fun of my mouse writing. Then we know that if the slope of the first line is A over B, the slope of the second line is the negative reciprocal, or negative B over A. So what does that mean? That means, like, if the slope of the first line is 2/3, then a perpendicular slope would be, should have wrote perpendicular, M2. So perpendicular, M2 is what? -3/2. The slope of the first line was, let's say, 4. Then the perpendicular slope, here, I'll write it first this time so it doesn't look so janky. Perpendicular slope of the second line would need to be -1/4. And the reason we know that is we can always put every number over 1, right? And so the perpendicular slope of 4 would be -1/4. All right, those are some examples. Use that, find these slopes, see which ones are either parallel. Parallel means same slope, perpendicular means negative reciprocal slopes. And other than that, we will roll. Ready, set, go. Awesome. Pause this if you need to write this all down, but I'm going to erase it. Boom. Let's look at this right here. Remember, it's changed in Y. So it's going to be -6 minus a -3 all over -4 minus 8. So it's rise over run, change in Y over change in X. Oh, it's just an 8. I don't need parentheses for that. Okay, so the first slope is, so my M1 equals, see, that's a plus. F6 plus 3 is -3. -4 over -8 is -12. See, a negative over negative is a positive, so it's going to end up being +1/4. Sorry, I was trying to think about how I could write it without getting lost. Okay, so let me erase what we just did. Pause if you need to. You know, our first slope is going to be 1/4. I'm just going to rewrite it. What do I know my next slope is going to be? Let me do it in red. It's going to be -3 minus 13. So -3 minus 13 all over -3 minus 1. So this equals what? -16 over -4, which equals +4. Well, they are reciprocals, but guess what? They're not opposite reciprocals. So that means our M2 equals +4, right? Negative over negative is a positive. So because of that, they're reciprocals, but not negative reciprocals. This is a neither. So we got a neither right here, okay? All right, let me go ahead and erase this. Boom, let's do the next one. I'm just going to do it a little bit quicker. Instead of the lines pointing, I'm going to have negative 4 minus negative 1 all over 3 minus 2, which equals what? Plus 4 plus 1 is negative 3 over 1, which equals negative 3. So then I'm going to have my M1 equals negative 3. And then for M2, we're going to have 0 minus 6 all over 3 minus 1, which equals negative 6 over 2, which equals negative 3. Boom. So I have my M2 equals negative 3. They're the same, so this is going to be perpendicular. Or not perpendicular, I'm sorry. What am I thinking? They're going to be parallel. So the sign for that, I just want to do a sign. It's going to be these lines are parallel, okay? And then let's look at your next one right here. To do this, we want to get them each in y equals mx plus b form, because remember, y equals mx plus b. We already know what the slope is right away. So the first one has a slope of 2, so we know that my m1 is 2 over here. For this next one, we just got to divide both sides by 2. Divide both sides by 2. And when we get that y equals negative x over 2 minus 1 over 2. We can split that up, distribute that 2. And negative x over 2 means that our slope, our m2, is equal to negative 1/2. Because remember, there's always a 1 in front of the x, so that's negative 1 over 2x, right? So negative 1/2. That is a negative reciprocal, so that means these are perpendicular. Okay? And let's look at 4. 4, we're going to have to get both of these going on. So I'm just going to add y over and subtract 2 over. And when I add y over and subtract 2 over, I get that on the top. I get that y equals 4x minus 2, which means my m1 on this is 4. And on this one right here, I'm going to subtract 8x over and divide both sides by negative 2. So when I subtract 8x over, I'm going to have y equals, or negative 2y, I'm sorry, negative 2y equals negative 8x minus 6. And I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. And I get that y equals negative 8 divided by negative 2 is positive 4x. And then negative 6 divided by negative 2 is positive 3. So my m2 equals 4. Ooh, hey, these are parallel. Let's go ahead and erase this. And then last but not least right here, let's go ahead and do a quick plot of these. Is this a right triangle? Let's find out. I need to go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll be close enough. We'll figure it out. So it's your red dot. What am I going to do? Negative 2, 1, negative 1, 2, up 1, okay. Negative 1, negative 1, negative 1, negative 1. And 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, up 1. Let's see if that's a right triangle. Well, I got to do the slope between lines. So hopefully, if it's a right triangle, just looking at what we've drawn here, since this is the longest leg, if it's a right triangle, it's going to have to be right here, which means between the point -2, 1 and -1, -1. Let's find that slope, okay? So when I find that slope, so this is -2, 1, and -1, -1, and then this point is 3, 1. So these slopes should be perpendicular. Let's see if that's true. I'm going to have, for slope 1, I'm going to have -1 minus a -2 all over -1 minus, oh, I'm sorry, -1 minus, up top should have been a 1. Because notice that would be -1 minus 1. And on bottom is minus the -2. Okay? So then what am I going to have? -1 minus 1 is -2. This turns into a plus. -1 plus 2 is going to be over 1, so that equals -2. Okay, so my slope 1 is -2. So M1 equals -2. Boy, this is a big lesson in and of itself. Good night. And what are we going to have right here? For number 2, it's going to be 1 minus -1 all over 3 minus -1. -1. So that's going to be a plus. That's going to be a plus. 1 plus 1 equals 2. 3 plus 1 equals 4. So that equals +1/2. Right? And is 1/2 the negative reciprocal of -2? Absolutely. That is. So these are indeed perpendicular. Boom. Right there. That's a big problem. I think I'm going to include this in its own video. We'll start a new one in just a minute.